The country's top security agency has arrested an American reporter with the Wall Street Journal on espionage charges. The arrest of Evan Gershkovich marks the first time that a U.S. correspondent has been taken into custody over on spying allegations since back during the Cold War. The arrest in Yekaterinburg, that is over in the Ural Mountains, the Federal Security Service saying that he was detained on accusations that he tried to obtain classified information, and a Kremlin spokesperson telling reporters, quote, "It is not about a suspicion, it's about the fact that he was caught red-handed." I do want to bring in Rebecca Grant, a national security analyst, to talk more about all of this. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Glad to talk to you.
So first off, your thoughts as all of this information is coming in and we're learning that this Wall Street Journal reporter is now in custody there in Russia.
It's outrageous. And it looks to me like Putin's thugs want to detain another high-profile American. And notice that key word that you said. The Russians say this individual is caught red-handed. Now, we know this is all crazy, but I also think that this time Russia's really looking for the publicity value of arresting this reporter, and it could be to do with their new military recruiting drive.
And one of the questions that comes to mind as you mentioned that is the situation with Brittany Griner, because we know that they did take a high-profile person into custody there. They no longer have Brittany. Do you think they were looking for somebody else? I know that is speculation at this point, but what are your thoughts?
Of course, it's speculation because we can't see into the mind of those thugs and Putin and what he's doing. But I'd say no question. It's interesting. It happened in Yekaterinburg, which is actually where Brittany Griner's basketball team was. It's also one of Russia's major cities. There are a lot of arms manufacturing plants there. But the fact is, this reporter for the Wall Street Journal is a no-kidding legit reporter. He's worked for Agence France-Presse. He's worked for other outlets. He had a story in the Journal just a couple of days ago talking about Russia's economy. So to my mind, they went out and picked him up on the thinnest of pretexts. It's completely wrong. But remember, Putin has a lot of problems. He is not winning this war in Ukraine. The Russians are about to try to recruit another 400,000 Russians. I think they want to return to the days of the Cold War and stir up Russian patriotic feeling by grabbing a so-called American spy. It's a ludicrous charge, but you've got to see it as Putin wanting to get back to that Cold War sentiment.
And it does kind of remind me, it's reminiscent of Paul Whelan, who we know is still jailed over there. We know that it was the same kind of espionage charge that has led to him being in custody. Do you think this is going to be a situation that is drawn out for maybe that long or as long as the Brittany Griner case went on for?
No way to tell, and it's such a tragedy about Paul Whelan still being there. But I think this will certainly stretch out for a bit. We know he's been detained until at least May 29th. I hope the State Department gets right in there to work his case. This tells you, too, why the State Department has warned that Americans should not travel to Russia. Of course, this is a journalist, so he's doing his job. So it's a flagrant violation of everything that the free press stands for. So typical Russia. And again, I think in a way, Putin is playing to domestic Russian public opinion, trying to stoke that opinion by claiming to have caught an American spy red-handed. It's crazy.
Well, and their words, what they're saying here seems pretty, confident on their end. They are saying 100% we caught him red-handed, but they're not going into specifics about anything. Is that even surprising at this point?
No surprise. And of course, they won't go into specifics. And it could be something like he was walking down a street 3 miles from the defense plant, because they're completely making this up. Remember, this is a closed society. Putin, of course, a former spy himself. Everything reports back to him. So there is no truth to this at all. The only true fact is that this man is a journalist and trying to write about what's really going on in Russia. And remember, again, Ukraine talks about launching their offensive in April or May. Russia's got a lot of problems. I really think this is part of Putin trying to shore things up as he continues to lose that war that's dragging out in Ukraine.
So in a statement, the Wall Street Journal said that it, quote unquote, denies the allegations and seeks the immediate release of their trusted and dedicated reporter. We stand in solidarity with Evan and his family. In your opinion, odds are he has done nothing wrong.
Oh, absolutely. This man is a reporter, and it's striking to me that they've reached as high as going for a Wall Street Journal reporter. Now, admittedly, I think his parents are perhaps Russian. He's probably Russian language speaker. But to grab someone from the Wall Street Journal, it also tells me they really wanted press coverage of this as well. It's really demented and twisted to apprehend him. But it just shows you what a dangerous society Russia is right now with Putin in control.
What would you say to Americans right now? Because I'm sure there are some Americans who are going to travel over to Russia. That is just part of what people do. But do you think they need to, I guess, second guess that and think twice before they do go over to Russia?
Americans should follow the State Department cautions, which I believe right now are just to not travel to Russia. Hey, Russia's an enemy of ours at this point under so many international sanctions. It's a very dangerous place to be and very difficult, even with the State Department trying to get you out of there. So Americans don't go. As for reporters, hey, this is part of their job. And I'm so glad to hear the Wall Street Journal and, of course, others are standing in solidarity with this individual. It's really an outrage. And it's not going to do Putin any good. This will only make NATO and the Western allies and the 54 nations supporting Ukraine that much more committed to make sure that Russia can't do this kind of thing again.
Any idea what happens next in this whole process? We know that he has been detained. Where does it go from here? Because we know the State Department likely going to get involved in this.
If it follows the Brittany Griner arrest pattern, he will be detained, which he has been, and he will also then be arraigned, and there will be some charges. The word, kangaroo court. This is not a fair judicial system in Russia, but there will be some legal process that occurs next, and I imagine already some discussion going on in diplomatic channels.
Do you think we'll be able to see inside the courtroom as all this is going on? Again, I want to make sure to say this. This is speculation at this point because this is all breaking at this hour here. But do you think, like with Griner, we'll be able to get a camera inside there and see as all this is playing out?
All speculation, but yes, I would expect it to follow the Brittany Griner pattern because, remember, Russia wants the worldwide publicity and they want their own people to see a detained American. Remember Stalin and the show trials? So they, I think, will most likely follow that Brittany Griner pattern again with this high-profile American who's detained and let the Russians see that as well. Again, it feeds their propaganda narrative of having grabbed a so-called American spy, which is a lie, but that's what Putin wants his people to believe.
My last question for you here. Do you think this ends in some kind of prisoner swap again?
Absolutely hard to predict because we have tried so many times to make deals. The State Department has worked this pretty hard. No telling where this ends at this point, but certainly I think we're all hoping for the safety and quick release of this Wall Street Journal reporter.
All right, Rebecca Grant there, national security analyst. Thank you always, or as always, for joining us here. Anything else that you want to add before I let you go?
Thank you, but hey, you got to remember, we got to keep up this support for Ukraine, and this is why.
All right, thank you again. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.